Hi, I'm Sydney LaTurner, and this is Deciding About Parenthood Through the Lens of Theory. So, family development theory. This is the idea that families go through changes as they progress through life. So, there are 8 stages to this theory, and each stage is defined by the developmental tasks and positions and roles of each member in the family. So, it's usually married couple, childbearing, preschool, school, teenage, kids leave the nest, middle-aged parents, and then the family as they age. So in this theory, timing is really important. It's nice to think of the stages as time periods, right? So when you have kids depends on which stage or time period you're at in life. So a few decades ago, most people had children in their early 20s. This has changed. Early 20s is usually viewed as too early now. Having children when you're younger is usually a little bit safer, maybe healthier, better, easier physically, but a lot of people are choosing older parenthood. They enjoy the time that they have for personal development. So when thinking about parenthood, it's really important to look at which stage and the time of it all. So the family development approach would again take a really good look at which stage this couple is in. Typically, they would be in stage 2. They would be married and then looking to get into that childbearing stage. This, of course, would change the family dynamic. So it would change the roles and the positions of each member in the family. This approach likes to look at families as social groups. So you would look at the group change and how that would change for each individual. So some important things to keep in mind with this theory, it kind of overlooks the non-traditional families. There's not really a space for them here. LGBTQ families, non-nuclear, and multi-generational families. They don't really have a space here. It's also really difficult to be proven because families look like so many different things, and each family has their own autonomy. They can go through stages in maybe not the way that this theory has it lined out. Maybe a couple didn't get married before they had kids. There are all different kinds of ways that a family can look that this theory kind of glosses over. It's not really there. So, the social exchange theory. This theory is really all about cost and benefit. It asks, what's in it for me? So, it's based off the key assumption that people, before they engage into a relationship, they weigh the profit and the costs. So that is kind of the basis of this theory. So when you're looking at this theory, in order to determine if a relationship is profitable, is if the rewards outweigh the costs. So let's say that a reward for childbearing, for having a child, is that it gives you a greater sense of purpose in life, right? But the cost could be that it's a significant financial burden. So you would have to weigh that yourself. And each reward and cost is subjective to the individual. Maybe someone feels that having that greater sense of purpose in life outweighs the financial burden. And for another, it's the opposite. So when we're talking about comparison levels, these are we use these to determine the expectations in a relationship. So your experience might be that you were an only child, and so your expectation is then that only children having only one child is expected. So that's the comparison level. So the reason these two parts are important is because they determine a lot the satisfaction level, right? Expectations are usually the hardest hitting factors. If one of those is more negative than the other, then it leads to lower satisfaction levels. So With comparison level alternatives, they must match yourself and not be compared to others in a higher bracket, because that usually leads to misery and unhappiness. Comparison level alternatives are what is acceptable to you and not to others in the same stage of life. Barriers in a relationship may be keeping the relationship together, but not necessarily benefiting it. So children tend to be barriers, right? They keep families together, but you're putting a lot of investment in it. You're putting a lot of time and effort into that. So satisfaction or stability is determined by any of those factors: satisfaction, comparison level alternatives, and the barriers and investments. So, when you're looking at parenthood through the social exchange theory, you're really looking at what benefit do kids bring me? A long time ago, people had a lot of kids so that they could have free labor. They could work on their farm, they could take care of them, all those kinds of things. That's not really the case now. We would consider that child labor. So children's economic value has declined, but that's also meant that their emotional significance has increased. So it kind of evens out a little bit, but children are a financial burden. And a lot of people are burdened by those costs. So a lot of people have been deciding not to have kids now because that cost the rewards do not outweigh that cost. So, symbolic interactionism. This is the idea that social groups and meaning, your kind of reality, is made up of the interactions you've had with others. So, through words, gestures, and language, your meaning comes from your social group. That's kind of the key part here. So how people give meaning to things determines how they react to things. And meaning is a learned behavior, again, from your social groups. So there's a key idea here that it's called tabula rasa. And that's the idea that you're born as a blank slate. And then everything from there is combination of your experiences and your what meaning you have learned. So society here and social interactions really influence the individual. So when thinking about bringing a child, symbolic interactionism would really reflect on the past experiences. So what experiences has this couple had with children? What is the assigned value from their social group? How do people around them behave with children? How, are all their friends having kids? That would be a big idea. Is this expected? Is this the norm? You would also take a look on the impact to the identity. Is being a parent important to your identity? Does that have a lot of meaning? What is the meaning of family and children to them, to this couple? Is it really important? You would kind of take a look at all of those things. So the weaknesses here: emotions are overlooked. It's all about behaviors, which we know in Positivism Paradigm. That is key. Concepts are difficult to define. Meaning, what does that mean? How do you measure that? Society's larger impact is overlooked, so we take a look at a lot of small social interactions, but the world's impact is kind of not discussed here. Power and biology are not discussed. What if you biologically can't have children? What if you're not in a position to provide for children? You don't have enough power. A lot of people believe that this is a helpful framework for thinking about people and social interactions and meaning, but some people contest whether or not it's a theory. So we have a little wrap up, some exam questions. Please take a look at these if you have a moment. Let me move my little face. And then here are our references. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it.